The price of beef rising on your grocery bill. That has President Trump floating a plan to cut the cost.
We would buy some beef from Argentina. If we do that, that will bring our beef prices down.
Now there's backlash from Texas ranchers.
Feed them American feed, process them here, truck them with American trucks. All of that is American made, not done in Argentina.
We look closer at a new proposal that aims to balance helping ranchers and cutting costs for consumers. Millions of Texans face big cuts to food benefits as a result of the government shutdown.
I don't know what to do because we're already struggling. We are.
How food banks are trying to fill the void. Big changes at the border. We go deeper into what's behind a surge in enforcement along the Rio Grande.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. The price of beef has been steadily rising. You probably noticed the effect on your grocery bill. It's caught the attention of President Trump as well. Last weekend, he called for importing more beef from Argentina to help cut costs. But that sparked backlash from Texas ranchers. As Dylan McKim reports, it's led to a new proposal to boost beef production without turning to foreign imports.
A little bit of a disagreement on how to lower the beef prices.
Sid Miller, the Agriculture Commissioner of the largest beef-producing state in the country, is not seeing eye to eye with the president and his suggestion to import more beef from Argentina to lower costs for consumers. Miller says more focus needs to be on growing the supply of cattle in America, which is at its lowest in 75 years.
We just don't have beef to sell. That's the problem.
We need to reshore a lot of our industries in this country, and cattle production and beef production is one of them.
The Independent Cattlemen's Association of Texas does not support any increase in foreign beef to the American market. In fact, its director says he believes the beef is at a good value as ranchers deal with higher input costs.
He's not making hand over fist. He's paying off debt.
Miller released his own 5-step proposal to help Texas beef producers. One idea is to safely resume imports of cattle from Mexico, which has been paused because of the New World screwworm, a parasite that could wreak havoc on the cattle industry. That idea is not supported by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, but Miller also calls for some type of tax credit to incentivize ranchers to hold on to female cows.
That would encourage them. They would start keeping heifers immediately, and that rebuilds our herd.
At Lubbock Feeders, a West Texas feed yard, their cattle pens are half full. Manager Kyle Williams said supporting any plan to grow the cattle population will help beef prices in the long run.
You give an American an incentive, we're going to figure out how to make it happen. There's no doubt in my mind that we will.
Dylan McKim, State of Texas.
We spoke at length with Ag Commissioner Sid Miller about his proposal. Capitol correspondent Adam Schwager pushed Miller to go deeper into his call to expand cattle imports from Mexico, which are currently blocked amid concern about spreading the parasitic screwworm.
Now, one way to lower the beef price overnight is to, instead of importing beef in a box, is import it live on the hoof, and we can do that. We've got a year's worth of feeder cattle stacked up in Mexico. We get about 15% of our feeder cattle every year out of Mexico, but we didn't get any this year because it was shut down because of the screwworm. We can methodically open that up very carefully so we don't bring in the screwworm, and that would immediately, the board would be off the limit on the price of beef. Not only do we have a year's worth backed up, but it's time for the next year's stuff to come in now. We're into the second season. So that would be, a lot more cattle on the market. That's the reason we have high prices. We don't have enough cattle. Open the ports, bring in the cattle, feed them American feed, process them here, truck them with American trucks. All of that is American made, not done in Argentina.
Right. Speaking of the screwworm threat, when you're talking about importing live cattle, how do you make sure that we do it in a way that keeps that screwworm threat out? Because obviously that could mean even more livestock culling if it gets out of control here on this side of the border.
Well, it's pretty simple. Before any cattle are imported, they go to a quarantine pen for several days. United States veterinarians have to inspect each and every one of them. They're dipped for parasites, which would eliminate the screwworm. You can give them a shot of Dectomax or ivermectin, which is an anti-parasitic drug. It would kill any screwworms that if they were infected. And then they come across, again, they're quarantined for a few days. We watch them. there's virtually no chance of bringing an animal in that has screwworm infection. So I think we could safely bring those in, replenish our feedlots. Our feedlots are down to about 60, 70, 80% capacity. We really need those cattle, and the American consumer needs them too, to bring down the price of beef.
Have you talked to the USDA about that? What are their thoughts on that proposal?
Well, they haven't been willing to do that. They actually opened it up last May, but we had a screwworm case pretty close to the border, so they decided to shut it back down, and it's remained closed. There's a season for that. Usually from November through February is when those cattle come in. So it really hadn't been a big need to open it up until now. So we're getting into that season for those ranchers in Mexico. They're weaning their cattle, and they need someplace to go with them. And we usually buy those so we can graze them on winter grazing, like wheat and oats and rye, winter pasture.
And then I know you mentioned tariffs. Is there anything that you think the president could change in his tariff policy that would help the cattle prices?
Well, it's not that people aren't buying our beef. We just don't have beef to sell. That's the problem. So the tariffs are not as big an issue on our producers. What he's actually doing is lowering the tariffs on Argentine beef, bringing about 5 times as much beef from Argentina as we're currently allowing them to bring in. And it's very low tariffs. Right now it's very low tariffs, but they've maxed out their quota. So this would be 5 times more than they in the past have been able to bring in, which should lower the price of hamburger. But I think it's only going to lower the price of hamburger, which would be good to consumers. It'd be something. But these other 5 things, if we implement those, I think we get a broader, more palatable cost reduction that doesn't harm the cattle producer and still benefits the consumer.
If you could help me kind of explain a little bit more about why that Argentine beef is so low quality compared to, yeah.
Well, number one, our beef for the most part here is grain fed. They don't have feedlots. It's grass fed, and the breeds are different. Most of their breeds are Brahman influenced, which is a very tough, stringy. It's just not tender meat. I'm not knocking but they raise those because of the tropical climate. They're resistant to the heat and the parasites and insects. The breeds we have here in Texas just wouldn't work down there. So they use what they can, but it's not the high quality beef that we raise here in Texas.
Just to wrap up here, I know when I go to the grocery store, I feel it. I think a lot of consumers do feel it when they're buying beef in the grocery store. Where are we at in terms of beef price inflation right now in the state of Texas?
Well, it's up. It's probably at an all-time high, but it's really, when you look at it, it's not really out of line compared to a $7 cup of coffee at Starbucks. That $14 a pound steak, it's not so high, is it?
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner Miller. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. God bless.
Mexico's agriculture minister is scheduled to travel to Washington next week to discuss potentially reopening the border to Mexican cattle imports. We want to give you perspective of the scale of those imports. A report from the USDA shows that the U.S. imported close to 1.25 million head of cattle from Mexico in 2024. This year, less than 250,000 head have come in. One consulting group estimates the gap could cost Mexican cattle producers nearly $800 million. The state says there may be hundreds of people illegally registered to vote in Texas. We look at what happens next for those people and how it could affect the election underway now. There's something new on the Rio Grande. We look closer at the changes happening now with the goal of boosting border security.